I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest coming right up at the second hour. Carol Irons is an elder by many Abenaki. Although she maintains her independence, she walks the red road. She served on the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs, along with our second guest, Carol McGranahan, who is a member of the Missisquoi Abenaki Nation. Both women helped to organize the Abenaki Cultural Regeneration Project that gave adult Abenakis teachings and understandings of an Abenaki way of living. And all of them, I must report, have gone on to be of service to the community, teaching, being educators. One was chief for a while. They served on various government commissions, and it was just wonderful. And I was asked to record and video some of that event, which you can find on our Moccasin Tracks YouTube page. So please go there. I want to welcome our guest, Carol Irons.
Hi, Carol.
Greetings. Can you? Ah, there you go. And Carol McGranahan. Welcome.
Hi, Carol.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Welcome. You know, I like to call the two of you educators and elders with much respect I have for your work and the path that you're on, for the leadership that you've shown in the past, and all the projects that you are creating a wonderful cultural awareness of the Abenaki people in Vermont and actually New England. So welcome to Moccasin Tracks.
Thank you, Deb.
Yeah. You know, I told our listeners a little bit about you earlier, and that our topic was on prophecies, Wendigos, and the choice. So, you know, would you like to start just to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Carol Irons. Grew up in Vermont, and I'm in 84, and so I was alive at the time when families were denying our Abenaki heritage because children were often being taken and put in institutions, and sometimes the adults as well. And it just was so not safe that our family simply denied that heritage while I was growing up. Even though I kept asking if we were Indian, I kept being told no, we were. My father asked me, had I ever heard of the Black Irish? Well, I knew he was Scotch through and through and would not have talked about the Irish. So that really puzzled me. But he avoided the subject, and so did my mother, for protection. I spent my life trying to find out more. So I went to different places where people would talk about indigenous heritage, even though it was not Abenaki, because I didn't know any Abenaki elders consciously. Obviously, my mother's family and my aunts that I was close to, my uncles. Nobody talked about Odanak. Nobody talked about other places to go to learn. So I learned far and wide, putting together as much as I could. And then when it was safer and it began to be more openly spoken of, I began to mine my own childhood and our own family patterns and realized there was a lot of tribal or indigenous behaviors right there in the family. And so that's where I really began to be able to put it all together. So that's my story. I've heard of the prophecies for many years. Finally was able to see a written account of it, but they've been forgotten by a lot of our people. But we're at the time. Some of them have come true, and I think we're at a very critical point right now. So that's my interest in that, Carol.
Like Carol, my family never really talked about our ancestry. And it was only, even though, like Carol, I was curious about it and always felt that there was a certain hole in my soul that, you know, I searched and searched for something that connected me with the spiritual world and with my culture, not even knowing at that point what the culture was. So I was extremely fortunate to meet Carol Irons as I became a member of the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs. She served with me for 6 years. I was chair and she was my vice chair. So at some point in that service, Carol put on a cultural regeneration camp. And that's really where I got jump started on. There's so much, I think, hidden in our DNA as well as in our memories of what our families taught us without being specific about where that knowledge came from. So for me, the connection with the plants was extremely important. And so I've done a lot of research on the plants and how they were used for medicine, for food, for utilitarian type of uses. So it really has been a learning experience. And at my age, Carol's my mentor, teacher, elder, just a wealth of information. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to connect with her and that we've been able to work on projects together. So
yeah, thank you both for that introduction. And just to let you know, this is Rick Hunt here. He likes to call himself sometimes Rockin' Ricky Rocket. His DJ name, Carol.
That's my DJ name.
And over here, minding the board is Carolyn.
Hey, Carolyn.
She's our sound engineer, keeps the mics on and everything, and keeps our signal going out on the airwaves, because we are live here on radio. So thank you both for joining us today.
Yeah.
You know, can we get back to prophecy? Carol Irons, you really lured us in by saying we are in some of those prophecies right now. We're living it. Can you speak to that a little bit for our listeners today?
Sure. The prophecies came to the more eastern parts of the Wabanaki people, which are several tribes. The Abenaki are the westernmost. They came long, long before, we don't know how many hundreds of years or maybe thousands of years before contact. Several of them have come true, and I can't recount all of those prophecies. But the one that concerns me the most is the one that speaks of the time after the people came out of the Great Sea, the new people, and they came, they could either come with a face of brotherhood, or they could be smiling and have some nice items that would be useful to us, but with weapons and looking for the riches of this land. In which case, the face of brotherhood and the face of death look very much alike. We know what happened. They came with weapons. They wanted the wealth of this land. They also came with infectious diseases our people had never known on this continent. And so we were in for a very long time, according to the prophecy, of very serious suffering. We lost large proportions of our population. We just had to kind of survive as best we could. After a long time of suffering, and it has been generations, not just a few years, but generations, because of the way things would progress, two people would become one people. That has happened in a strange way. Our people have to walk with a foot in both worlds, the modern society, the dominant society, and the world that they create, but also trying to keep a foot in a world that has remained largely hidden, with the values and the beliefs of the first people of this land, the indigenous people. So we kind of have been split for a long time, and that's how we've survived. We are at the point now, because of this prophecy, we were told that the time would come after the two people became one people, we would come to a fork in the road. The fork in the road, as I understood it, was where a major choice was to be made by the new people that came. If we retained enough of our culture, we would know where we were at that fork in the road, but the strangers would not. We do have strangers who, in the manner of two people becoming one people, began to claim that they were Abenaki, although they are not, and have no roots in the culture, but they have taken on some of the more visible and more superficial aspects of the culture. And it fools a lot of people. And in that sense, at great cost to the real indigenous people, their two people seem to be one. They speak for us a lot. They try to take leadership roles. Meanwhile, our own people keep pulling back into the shadows because that's destructive of our culture. It's not our real culture. They make stuff up. At that point where two people became one path would be a path of self-destruction. The other path would be a circling back to the original instructions. My understanding is that the Anishinaabe elders, and they held the ancient stories and values and the prophecies even after they migrated further west because of an earlier prophecy. And my understanding is that some of the Anishinaabe elders or Ojibwe elders feel that the path to self-destruction is technology. While it has brought some good things, it has also brought a lot of very bad things that, I mean, it's obvious. You can think of the bombs, the incredible raping of the forests, the polluting of the rivers, all the kinds of things with the style of agriculture that puts poisons on the earth. All those kinds of things were brought about by technology. And now we have social media, and everybody today particularly is terribly aware of the disinformation as well as the misinformation, the distortions of reality. And that's being carried largely by technology. So it seems to me the prophecy is right there. The choice is either we go the path of self-destruction or we go the path back to the original instructions. I'm finding it hard to get people to think about what was that, because we lost so much. But basically, it comes down to a value system, as well as a lifestyle, as well as our relationships to the sacred. Do I want to go back to living in a bark lodge? Well, no, I kind of like having a refrigerator, and I like being able to sit in an easy chair, because my old bones, I can't get back up off the ground if I sit down on the earth. So there are benefits. It doesn't say that we have to go back to the same lifestyle, but we need to think about the lifestyle that is built and that nobody seems to question. It is built on the concept of perpetual growth that feeds the greed, and the greed keeps promoting more growth. And I call those the twin cannibals. That's just my way of labeling it, I guess. But the push for always further development and further growth is continuing to damage the very land that feeds us and takes care of us, and the waters and all the other forms of life, and keeps us separated from the web of life, of which we're only one part. And yet our arrogance is that we're dominant. We're destroying. And we're destroying the very world that has taken care of us and nurtures us. So it's a value system conflict. My concern is that we need to live with less and be happy and content with less. Probably would be healthier to step back away from this whole our economic structure, our educational system, our use of technology, our use of the resources of the land are all built on growth and development to feed the greed. If one really pays attention to that kind of value system and turns around and says, do I really need it? What is your real need compared to what you want? Well, I mean, we've grown up wanting all kinds of comforts and goodies that we don't really need. We do need food, nurturous food. We do need clean water. That's hard to come by now. We do need community. We need shelter. And we need right relationships with the great web of life, of which we're only one small part. So I think the overpopulation, I think the incredible greed and always consuming more is very counterproductive and is part of the path to self-destruction. The Wendigos, I think, are the people who are pretending to be Native American because they make money off our culture. They learn some of our language or history or cultural artifacts, how to make things and how to present, and they go out and teach, charging money for it. And they get grant money, they get themselves into roles where they're speaking on behalf of the Abenaki people, even though they are not Abenaki. And that kind of exploitation is just a new form of the colonialism that we've dealt with for several hundred years. So following them is part of the path of self-destruction because it's a way of kind of destroying our culture from within. So that's the prophecy, and I think it depends on returning to the old values, which had to do with respect and generosity, and only identifying what you actually really need and giving away the rest, not accumulating it. And our relationship to the sacred, which is a return to the practices that kept us in tune with the web of life and with the great powers of creation in an honorable way, and thereby in good relationship with each other in a good way. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Do you have a question, Rick? Or?
Carol, I don't think you've changed. It's awesome.
Mean as ever.
What's that?
I'm just as mean as ever, Rick.
Oh.
We're both a little more white, but I don't think we've changed. No.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember years and years ago, you were doing all kinds of ceremonies at your house, I believe, because you invited me to a solstice. I wasn't able to attend, but I was so impressed with your dedication to the Red Road all these years.
Yes, at some points I've taught small groups of people,
Hmm.
and we did do a cycle of ceremonies for some years with a small group of people. I don't do that anymore and haven't
No.
for quite a while now, but um, I was willing to share it because I knew two people had to become one people, but I found it didn't really work that way. So I have, as Carol referred, I did set up some camp sessions to begin teaching Abenaki rather than just opening it to who was interested in learning. But that has limits too, and I'm finding it hard to do that even. Some of the leadership was not helpful with that.
Mm.
And that's some of the same leadership that, to me, are Wendigos. So there's, within the Abenaki community, there's a real struggle about which path to take. Because the one path has to do with money, as well as growth and development, and being able to market your culture or find ways to earn more money. And the other path isn't based on money. It's based on relationship with your community and connection to the spirit world, and certainly a different way of attuning to the great web of life. And there's a lot of people don't seem to understand they can't do both now. So I think we're at the road, and the destruction is happening, and if we don't get on the right road, we aren't going to make it through. That's just my feeling about it.
I wanted to ask Carol McGranahan if she had a little bit more to say about the Wendigos.
Yeah, I've been munched on a little bit here and there. I think probably the most significant saying that Carol had told me at one point was that the person is the community and the community is the person. So when you really look at that, what does that implicate? You know, that we're all the same. Nobody's above another. That when we see somebody in need, we give what we can to help, whether it be in food or transporting someone where they need to be. But that really takes another look at how we relate with our community. You know, I think the Wendigos they're so self-centered that they don't realize there's so much good you can do for other people. And that's what being a community is, that you work together. Not always work, but play together. I mean, teach each other and share the knowledge. And it's not about how much can I get for teaching a class. It's freely giving of yourself, whether teaching or material goods or whatever. One of the things of technology that Carol didn't mention, which is extremely important to me, is my car. Without that car, I wouldn't be able to do all that I do. So there's good pieces and bad pieces of technology. The path that we've taken, I hope, diverts a little bit from this technology, because what I see is my own children and my grandchildren becoming that further removed from me, not only physically, but also as well. When we're communicating, it's nothing to have them in the same room with me and have them text me rather than actually hold the
wow. Yeah.
You know, so that sort of technology is, yeah, it's great if I'm out and about and I need to let somebody know where I am. But on the other hand, it really puts a roadblock up, I think, for the kind of communication, the internalization, the really getting to know somebody. How do you do that through a text and that sort of thing? So Yeah, I'm hoping we go down the right path and that people are choosing to maybe put down their phones or put away the computers and actually sit and talk and teach each other, because we all learn every day. We learn as long as our minds are open.
I really appreciate that I got to attend and record and video some of the Abenaki Cultural Regeneration Project, because I gained so much, a little bit of insight and respect for the process. And I wanted to ask you both, if ceremony, how ceremony can play a part in both community and the individual to maybe in realizing the connection to, spirit and earth and this process and this choice that we seem to be making right now. How the ceremony or some of those other traditions, if you practice that, does that pave the way a little bit for you in a positive way to move forward and bring that ceremony with you?
Well, obviously, I think it does. It puts your whole essential being in a different relationship with all that is. Mm-hmm. It puts you more open and receptive to nudgings and help from the spirit world. It puts you in a better relationship with yourself, because it's a form of healthy living, healing. It's calming and it's energizing at the same time. I think ceremony is the opening of the connection between the physical world and the spirit world. Mm-hmm. And it has a powerful energy if it's done with respect and appropriately. I don't think you can just make up a ceremony and go through the motions, putting on different garb and doing different motions or different directions because you made up a fantasy. That's not really ceremony. That's pretending to do ceremony. And for some people, that's all they may have. Real ceremony, I think, requires a development of a different sensitivity and attunement to unseen powers. Mm. And you can't just make that stuff up. So if you do the rituals of like purification, the smudging, you sit quietly for the period of time for some prayer. You attend some ceremonies that are properly done. There's an energy field that gets generated around that is of a different dimension and a different quality than just busyness or following a script. Mm-hmm. And it interpenetrates with your own body and your own spirit, but also out beyond you to any others that are also participating, but also to the unseen helpers from the spirit world. The more you do that, the more in tune with those dimensions of living you can become. And then the physical isn't the dominant thing. And it isn't the thing that you always are striving to be on top of, because it's not as important. Mm-hmm.
So one of the ceremonies that Carol taught at the camp was smudging in the morning. For me, that's been very impactful, because for me, it sets the tone of the day. You start the day with a thanks to everyone, Creator, Mother Earth, all of our relations, our ancestors, the spirit world. But it also helps me start the day with really reflecting on what it is I have to be thankful for. I mean, we've all been given so much, And how often do we stop to give thanks for the plants or the animals that give us sustenance? Without Mother Earth, we wouldn't be here. Without the Creator, we wouldn't be here. Our ancestors guide us and protect us and give us wisdom if we're willing and open to that. So smudging isn't just, you light some sage and make it smoke all over and there you go. It's more of a reflective pursuit that you actually, for me, is going into this inner part of myself and understanding the relationships I have with everyone. Human form, I mean, there's human people and there's plant people and there's rock people. And, do we treat them as such? Do we respect them and honor them the way that they should be to get back into balance? Because right now everything has been thrown so out of balance. So that's why, that one little ceremony, it doesn't sound like much. And a lot of people do it too. They go around their house and they smudge their house, and isn't that wonderful? But they don't understand the ceremony and the purpose behind why we do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Well, you talk about choice, and it sounds like Carol McGranahan, you make a choice every day to recognize that energy, and you work on it for yourself by doing that ceremony. So that's a beautiful thing. I know that Rick, you've been asked to be firekeeper at ceremonies at different times, and do you want to say anything about that?
Well, what I can say is it's a lifelong role. I had a wonderful mentor, excuse me, about 30 years ago, who has been my mentor all along, to be a firekeeper. It's not something I go around waving a flag about, oh, hey, I'm a firekeeper. It's like if people approach me, and those who know that I do that, I will listen to them and I will determine whether the ceremony is something honorable.
Mm-hmm.
But I take it very seriously. I've been given many teachings, and it's a way of being in the world that I take seriously. And there are certain teachings like to be honest, to stop and listen to people when they approach you and take as long as it takes to hear them. There are certain seasons to gather medicine. There's a lot to it. And, when people come up to me and hand me their firekeeper card, I just roll my eyes. I'm like, oh, great. That's wonderful. But yes, there's a lot to it. And occasionally I'll get requested to do some firekeeping. And the last time was at a memorial of a friend's who passed. And and I've done firekeeping for sweat lodges, powwows, Girl Scouts, all kinds of folks, and at different kinds of venues. I was a firekeeper at an atlatl competition.
That's a new one.
Yeah. And it was appropriate. It was like, yeah, I should have been there. Yeah. So.
Well, we have a short time remaining, and I wanted to get back to the carols, and each of you have a couple minutes to share with our listeners today your maybe final thoughts on prophecies, Wendigos, and choice.
Well, my urge is that you reframe your value system and decide what really is need compared to want, and try to use less and less of the resources of Mother Earth and be more gentle in your walk on this earth. I would caution you not to be trying to play Indian. That is deeply offensive to our people. That's the Wendigo path. And the exploitation is really when you go beyond a valid need and begin to use a lot more than you need. That's a different choice. I would be cautious about engaging in ceremonies that you're not properly trained in, and it's not part of your culture, because again, this is deeply offensive, but it also can bring harm. It's harming the people you're exploiting, but it also can bring harm to you. I mean, there are people who make a big thing of going into sweat lodges, and yet people have been hurt in sweat lodges. Mm-hmm. That's an abuse of the medicine, and the spirit world does not look kindly on it. And there may not be an immediate whammy, but there will be. That way lies sickness. So I would urge you to be respectful, which is a primary value of our people, and it's a primary value of the choice here that we're facing, that we do everything with respect, with generosity, with integrity, truth speaking, as Rick said. That's foundational to the whole trust, both of other two-leggeds and of the web of life. And model your lifestyle on a reductionist kind of living, more simply and more close to the bone. And I think you will begin to put yourself in connection with spirit helpers simply by following that path.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I would say ditto. I think this is why I'm so thankful that I have Carol as a mentor and a teacher, because there are so many out there who are Wendigos, and it's very hard sometimes to determine who's the one you should be following or not. But I think if you listen to your heart, not so much your head, but your heart, you can really tell somebody's honorability, I guess. I don't really know how to phrase it, but you can tell if their heart is good. And that's really what it's about. That as long as we have a good heart and we honor and respect others, don't be a Wendigo. we have too many of those as there is. But again, I always want to respect and honor the people who have helped me, the ancestors and Mother Earth and Creator. And without them, I wouldn't be who I was or who I am. So, yeah, that's choose the path that makes your heart feel good.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's truly been an honor to have you both here with us today. Thank you. I hope you will come back again. We found a way that we can, see each other and share some words for our listeners that I think will be very helpful. So thank you. It's been an honor.
Yes.
Truly.
Good to see you all again.
Thank you.
Rick and Carolyn too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Same here.
All right. And that's Carolyn. All right, you guys.
Let's do mischief again.
All right. Yes. We'll have you back.
Yes.
For sure.
Right.
Whenever we can get together. Thank you. Be well. Choose well today, everyone.